Most hunting shows have lost touch with the average hunter. The hunts are taking place on expensive leases or outfitted hunts that average hunters can't afford. The hunters you see on this show represent the average guy. Hunts take place on public land, the family farm, or a place we knocked on the door and asked for permission. We will take you along for the scouting, planning, and then the hunt.
Hi, and welcome to Extreme Whitetail Tactics. On today's episode, I'd like to take you along on an early season hunt with Joe Rentmeester.
So I noticed a heavy trail on my way into where I hunt. It was leading to an apple tree, and every time I drove past the apple tree on the four-wheeler, I could see that the apples were cleaned up. So I figured something's cleaning them up and I wanted to know what it was, so I grabbed the trail camera and I threw it on a tree next to it. And when I throw up a trail camera on private land, I like to do it with the four-wheeler and just lean off the four-wheeler and stick it on the tree that way to keep scent to a minimum. So that's exactly what I did. I pulled the camera a few days before the opener, and to my surprise there was a nice buck on the camera. He was actually coming on the camera. He was in the morning, and to see a buck during the daylight in the morning like that, I knew he had to be bedding close by.
When I was young, I hunted very aggressively, both mornings and evenings, and I noticed that I rarely killed big bucks in the morning and that I often kicked them out of their beds going in the darkness. Hunting in close proximity to bedded bucks has really opened my eyes to the fact that most mature bucks are bedded before daylight. Outside of that little rut window, those bucks tend to get back to those beds before daylight. There are some exceptions though. If you get one of those storms in the evening that keeps bucks bedded later into the evening, when they start their routine, they seem to get back to their beds later in the morning. So hunting in the morning, the day after an evening storm that went into the night a little ways, but you had a calm morning, a lot of times that'll get you good morning activity on a bed. The other exception is the moon phase. A moon overhead or a moon underfoot, and in or around that first hour of dawn, we'll generally get those bucks, for whatever reason, getting back to those beds later in the morning. And I know there's a lot of skeptics on that, but I've seen enough bucks at that time frame and seen enough trail cam picture evidence that I know that's a fact.
Although morning hunts can be tough, I've been successful in the past 3 years because I picked the right days. And there's a few reasons why the right days can be successful. For example, this past year I killed a buck because he was with a doe fawn. The year before I killed a buck, it was the pre-rut and he was coming to his bed late. And this particular buck I killed him because of the moon phase in the early season. So as you can see, this is the apple tree right behind me. That the trail's coming out underneath. I'll actually go over there and show it to you. You can actually see the path kind of actually right over this board where they were coming through. And they were cleaning up all the apples underneath the tree. And I put my trail camera way over here on this birchwood tree. And I did this by stepping off the four-wheeler to keep scent to a minimum. So I hunted over the apple tree opening morning. It was a correct wind and correct move phase, but he never showed. So 3 weeks later, the moon phase was perfect for another morning hunt, and I set back up in the exact same tree and gave it another try. So the buck was using this trail, walking into the wind to the apple tree. So I set up here with my scent blowing this way. So I've got the apple tree right in front of me, and the deer basically came out, came straight this way into the wind, so he could smell the whole time. And now my stand is in that tree right there, and my wind was also going straight that way, and the reason he couldn't smell it was because he was off to the side walking parallel with my scent stream. So I'm sitting in my stand right now exactly the way I was when I shot the buck that morning. I'll show you exactly where the apple tree was and exactly where I placed the trail camera. So that apple tree right there is where he came out, and that birch tree right there is where I was getting pictures of him. And now what's really key about this hunt is exactly which way the wind was going. The wind was actually going straight that way. He came from a little bit more over there, but my wind was just off to the side of him, that the wind was going that way, and he wasn't gonna wind me that way.
If I killed a buck that I didn't know where he was bedding, my mission would be to find that bed and figure out how I can use that bed to my advantage in the future. Because that won't be the only buck that uses that bed, and that bed will be good for years and years. At least that's been in my experience in hunting these beds. So killing a buck like the one Joe did, where he didn't know where the bedding is, would put me on a mission. I would have to find that buck bed.
So a few weeks later, after killing the buck, I was curious as to exactly where he was bedding, and I did a little bit of searching around, and I found his bed. It was about 250 to 300 yards away from exactly where I killed him, so it wasn't far at all. So originally, when I got the trail cam pictures of my bull buck, there was also another good buck hitting that same apple tree. I didn't have as much interest in him, but he was still a good buck. And because I knew where the bed was, when gun season came, all the deer were pressured. He was pushed back into the bed. He actually took over the bed of the buck I shot, the bull buck, and he came out the second night after opening day, and I shot him coming right out of his bed in the swamp. So I'm sitting right now where I shot the buck, and I'll take you to right where his bed is. So I'm coming up to the bed right now, and you can see it. This little piece of earth right here is basically all he bedded on. And you can see a little bit of the scarring right here from his old rubs. And that's right where he bedded. Alright. I'm sitting in the buck's exact bed right now. He left his bed and he headed out that way. And I'm actually sitting a little bit to the left, which is where I expected him to go. But he stayed a little bit more to the right, which I later found out his trail was a little bit more to the right. And he stayed off the main trail where I would assume all the does and fawns were going. Alright, October 22nd. I just put an arrow in a pretty nice buck. He came in this morning following a doe and two fawns, and I pulled back on him, and the doe caught me pulling, and she blew. And then he started looking around to see what happened, and he started walking at me, quartering at me, and he looked up at me, and he didn't know what he was looking at, and then he turned away again, and I hit him perfect. And he ran over on the hillside over there and flopped over. So we're gonna get down, we're gonna take a look at him. He's a pretty nice buck. At least 500 pounds of brute. Okay. I had this buck come in at first light this morning. Put my arrow in him, it was perfect. What happened was yesterday I was looking for a new spot to do some hunting, because I've been hunting the same buck all season and it wasn't working for me. I'd seen him opening night and that was it, so I decided I needed to hunt a different buck. And I did some scouting and I found this pothole back here. It's got some cattails and some tamaracks and some red brush, and there was some rubs going into it, and I thought it looks like a good bedding area, and I didn't want to go into it, so I stayed just outside of it, right on the transition line. And last night, sure enough, last night he came in and I shot just over his back because I didn't settle the pin real well. Well, this morning, that was the only thing on my mind, was settling the pin. I talked to some people on the forum. They said, you know, sit over the same bedding area and he might come back in. Well, I sat over the bedding area and sure enough, he come in following a doe and 2 fawns, and I hit him perfect this time. It's a good buck. Alright, this is the little pothole that he was coming out of. This is where he came out last night. This is how you could tell he was going in here. You got this rub, it's facing in. He made it when he went in. And if you look, there's another one right behind me that he made while he was going in. And if you look over there, he's got another one he made while he was going in. So I knew he was coming out here for sure. I didn't know if it was actually the best night spot, but I said it anyway. And if you look, there's my lone wolf right there. And that's where I missed him out of last night.
I was really glad when Joe said he wanted to be on the show. I've watched Joe grow as a hunter on our forums for several years, and he really keeps hunting fun and enjoyable, and he hunts for the right reasons. I truly believe Joe is going to be the next big buck serial killer. Thank you for joining us on Extreme Whitetail Tactics. If you have any comments or questions about the show, please join us at huntingbeast.com. Thank you.